Pandora's box is about to open wide.
Welcome to Pandora's Box, everybody. Hope you're having a good day. If you are listening to this episode when it comes out, it is May the 22nd, I think.
Wow.
I thought I'd give us some, you could say, quick fire facts. But I thought, I'm going to start this little thingamabobber, where I'm going to be giving, crazy facts about the day, about, each week of that day. I'm sure I could explain that with better English, but my brain is like scrambled eggs.
What happened on this day?
So basically, it's May 22nd today. I'm going to tell everyone interesting, cool stuff that's happened on May 22nd in the past. And I'll do that every week until either I forget or I can't be bothered to do it
This Week in History.
Yeah, I was going to say, this
a
week
little
in
bit.
history.
But a bit more out there.
A bit about out there, baby.
A bit more balls deep. A little bit more off the deep end.
Pandora's Box style.
Because we're a little bit more abstract. A little bit more abnormal.
Free.
A little bit more abnormal, a little bit more deformed, you could say. Did you know that May 22nd is officially International Goth Day?
Oh, nice.
Not a well-known holiday, not one that's praised enough. I think that we should all celebrate Goth Day some more.
We should be dressed differently in order for this.
So
occasion.
if you listen to this, the day it's come out, put on some black clothes. Maybe if there's a black wig nearby, put it on. Listen to some Typo Negative or what's other goth bands?
Get your mascara out.
I don't know, Marilyn Manson. Is that goth?
Yeah, I'd say that's goth.
Yeah, probably a bit gothy, innit? Or if you're going to go old school, Sisters of Mercy or something like that.
Oh, baby.
That's more my kind of goth, you know. So yeah, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? Did you know that it's the 142nd day of the year? So we've made it 142 days into 2023.
That's quite... birthday.
That's quite good. Yeah, if you're Bilbo Baggins. Did you know that on this day in 1906, the Wright Brothers were granted a patent for their flying machine?
So cool.
Their first application was rejected, and overall, the process took them 3 years to get the patent. It's mad, isn't it? The Wright Brothers first made their patent for a flying machine in 1906. Relatively, that's not that long ago.
No.
I mean, what's that, 127 years ago? So
that still does sound crazy. That, it's not that long ago, but then to think that the flying could have been happening then is quite crazy for me as well.
What I think's mad though is the thing is, time is relative, isn't it? So it's what is a long time? But to me, it doesn't seem like a long time. But what I think's mad is to think that was only 10 years before World War One, and by World War One, they were using planes to fight in the skies. So it was 1 minute, nobody had planes.
Yeah,
10 years. So think of it think of it this way, right? Imagine if planes were only invented in 2013, right? To me, that doesn't seem like that long ago.
No.
So imagine 1 minute, humankind just has to stick to the ground.
We should go back to this podcast in 10 years' time now that we've seen these advancements in AI and stuff and see what's happening with that in 10 years. That's going to be mental.
We'll be dead, but the machines that have the chips of our memories in their data banks will do that. Cyber Drew and Cyber Bull and Cyber... What's my name again?
I'm Winkle.
Cyber Obadiah. Cyber Dyer Systems
Cyber
101.
Cyber
They
Whistle.
call me Cyber Whistle. Yeah, so I think that's crazy. So in just 10 years, they went from not having any planes in the sky in the world at all.
Yeah.
And newspapers would bring out articles saying how they thought it was basically impossible and that it would never happen, that it was a fool's errand.
Were the flying balloons out then already? Or
Yeah.
already.
What are they called again?
The Led Zeppelins.
No, you're on about hot air balloons. Aren't you? Oh yeah, that's called hot air balloons, aren't they? The balloons. What are they called again? Oh yeah, hot air balloons. Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
that
but
one.
What about those flying Zeppelins? Those massive ones.
I think
that was during the war, wasn't it?
Second World War.
I don't know. I think Zeppelins actually. I can't remember when Zeppelins were invented. I don't think that they were invented until after the first plane. Only because, as I said, I think there were newspaper articles at the time that said they thought that we would never make it into the skies as human race. They said it would take something 100,000 years, which just goes to show how wrong people can be sometimes, doesn't it? Even intelligent people. Do you know what I mean? There were intelligent people that thought that the Wright brothers were idiots and that it was pointless even trying to make the plane. And then they were we'd done it. I guess they were the Elon Musks of their day.
Yeah. Think how soon after that we were in space as well.
Yeah, like 60s? So like 50 years? See, that's crazy, isn't it? Go from not being able to fly at all, 10 years after that, there's like air forces fighting in wars, in world wars. Literally, another 30 years after that, you got World War II, where there's like advanced planes, like, freaking massive squadrons. There's bomber planes, all these different. By the end of World War II, you started getting like planes that almost looked a little bit like modern planes, like jets, like jet airplanes, rather than propellers. And then, you had the Cold War. There's all this technology. The Soviets make the MiGs. The Americans are making all of their crazy jet planes. The British are making theirs. Got Harrier jump jets nowadays, which don't even have to take off. They just go off the ground, like off the air carriers and that. That's pretty nuts. And then, 1960s just go from 50 years before, people were just traveling by train and stuff. And then, boom, man on the moon. Can you believe they put a man on the moon? Man on the moon. They're quite a good band, aren't they, R.E.M.?
Yeah.
They're one of those bands I was thinking, what happened to them? Because in the 90s, I swear they were like juggernauts. And it's like, are they even? I don't follow them that much. Yeah, like I say, like they're good, but I haven't got any of their albums.
It's weird. It's almost like you get so big, and then you just kind of go off the face of the earth a little bit. Just kind of just do your thing. Like I think that of all like the massive bands, like and
certain actors as well. I think, but certain like A-list. You think some of the actors in like the 80s and 90s, and as you said, some bands as well, R.E.M. And you just suddenly think, 1 minute it seemed like they were on the face of every magazine, like everywhere you could. You couldn't go anywhere without hearing the songs or seeing
Brendan
their face.
Fraser.
Yeah, or like Richard Gere. Like what happened to Richard Gere?
They've got a really good thing in it in a film I watched recently called Babylon, which kind of attacks that. It's done once upon a time in Hollywood as well, where they're looking at the perspective of like not a failing actor, but an actor that would have been like the biggest actor of the time, but his career's going one way. And they had this whole speech in Babylon where they were like, once it starts to go that way, you cannot resurrect it. Once the people have made their mind that you're finished, you're done, there is no coming back. I found
Apart
that
from
really
Brendan Fraser, who's just come back and got an Oscar.
Yeah, was it for The Whale? Was
for
it?
The Whale,
Mate, what
he's just come
is.
back pretty chubby and just like I'm gonna do the Oscar, man.
Yeah, because in the 90s he was hot property, wasn't he? He did Airheads, which was like a hilarious sort of like Wayne's World sort of Bill and Ted style movie, which is really underrated. If you want to watch if you're like into like rock music and like dudes and stuff.
I don't think I've ever seen that one with
it's
Brendan
like Brendan Fraser and Adam Sandler, and who's the other guy?
Cool, I love Adam Sandler.
Who's the guy that's in a lot of like gangster stuff, and he's almost got like without being rude, he looks like a bit weird. He was in Con Air, and he was like the cannibal in Con Air. He's got like he looks a bit like a fish, and he's like real skinny.
Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's the other guy. I'm pretty sure it's like Adam Sandler, Joe Frazier, and Steve Buscemi. I think that's who it is. And they're like these like rockers, and they're in a band, and they look like they should be members of like freaking like Pearl Jam or like early style Pantera or something. Cool. And they hold hostage a radio station and like make them play their song on air with like gunpoint. But it's like a comedy. It's really funny. It's called Airheads. Obviously a little double entendre there, supposedly because they're like goofballs, but obviously on air, But and obviously The Mummy, and George of the Jungle.
George of the Jungle, yeah, that's the one I remember.
George of the Jungle, watch out for that tree. Mate, I used to love George of the Jungle.
Yeah, I did as well, man.
I did it on VHS, and it would be one of those. Yeah, it's like one of those things, isn't it? Like you got a couple of hours to kill, which
feel a good movie.
In the 90s, you do when you're young because like. Let's say there was
no
internet at the time or anything like that, so it's like if you weren't going to go out and call on your mates, or like, your mum and dad said like you couldn't go
get
out,
the old VHS on.
Let's put a
Sega
VHS
Mega
on.
Drive
VHS.
VHS.
Damn, I have to rewind it first.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I used to love that movie. That was well good. It's got that really likable female actress in it as well. That was in like This Is 40 and other stuff. Can you picture her? She's like a real nice, smiley, nice lady. Yeah. She's just one of those people that just seems.
Can't remember her name.
Very pleasant. Is it Leslie something?
Wesley Snipes.
Is it? Yes, Wesley Snipes. That's who plays Blade. The woman in it. This jacked black dude plays this like real pretty little like.
Mate, Blade was awesome. That was one of my favourite movies when I was younger.
They're making a new Blade soon.
Are they? With Wesley Snipes still.
Nah,
I was gonna say.
See, I'm a bit gutted about that. Like, man. The first
that was epic.
The first two Blade movies, like back in the day, they're like. Because the thing at the time, there still wasn't that. There wasn't. It was a time when there weren't very many successful superhero movies. The Batman movies were the first successful ones. The Tim Burton and Michael Keaton Batman movies, weren't they? They was like the first that were like properly good, like box office hit superhero movies. And then it was like nothing for a few years, and then Blade came out, and then Blade was like just as good.
I remember having Sky and just watching it on it.
what a sort of no one would expect them to make Blade as the first like big superhero movie.
Well, the second one, but I guess it was the first Marvel one. Because obviously,
was it Marvel?
Marvel's DC.
What?
Marvel's sorry,
Blade was
Batman's DC. Whereas Blade is Marvel. So that was
I didn't even know that it was a Superman thing. I thought Blade was just the movie.
Superman.
So, like superhero thing. Yeah, like I didn't know it was like from a magazine. What are they called? Comic book. I did not know that Blade was. I thought Blade was just like a movie.
Blade was originally a Marvel comic.
Whoa.
About this half vampire, half man creature. Yeah, Daywalker.
That's
they call him.
cool.
The Daywalker.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that's epic.
And it's cool as well. A little bit of interesting facts. Obviously, a little bit of interesting trivia. So, do you remember the guy that played Whistler in that? He's like the older,
I loved Whistler.
Don't go Netflix, stop. And he's like this cool, gnarly old guy. The guy that plays him is a really famous musician called Chris Christopherson. Who I used to have a
good actor as well. He was great actor in that movie.
But he's a really freaking good musician. And I used to play a lot of his stuff when I did that show, the Sheriff's Department, on AW Radio. Go check out AW Radio if you like your music. Young Bullwinkle has a rap show.
Damn straight.
I have a metal and rock show and proggy show and grungy show with Drew called Dark Dale. I used to have a show called the Sheriff's Department, which played stuff like country and western and all that. Johnny Cash. All that good stuff, Towns Van Zandt, all that good stuff. But yeah, he was friends with Johnny Cash and all of those guys, and he's like a really successful like country and western star, like really gruff, old school, like modern day cowboy style dude. And then turned his hand to acting as well, and I think probably his most famous role, is Whistler in that. But he was cool because he's just like a gnarly old dude, smoking cigars and like basically telling Blade to like get his attitude together. Sort of thing.
So cool.
Even though Blade's like real tough, but he's like Whistler's like the only guy that like Blade will take. SHIT from, take poo from.
Yeah.
The Resurrection. Sorry, no, you continue.
I was going to say other old movies that I really liked and that kind of hit me like Blade was Starship Troopers.
That was great.
That was another insane one that you say when you're like you see when you're quite younger, but it's just like this is so epic. And another one. Did you ever watch Dusk Till Dawn?
Oh yeah,
mate, I love Dusk Till Dawn as well.
Tarantino.
Oh man, those two, they just come in my head. Like I watched them around the same time as Blade as well, and it was just like they were just so epic.
All three of them, I would say like they're three of the best movies of the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing with Starship Troopers, like to say Starship Troopers is one of the best movies of the 90s is probably quite offensive to actually like really good movies because it's one of those movies that's like. Look, it's not going to win an Oscar for any acting or anything.
No.
So I mean,
but I thought like the CGI in it and everything, the way that for the time, I remember it was the first film that I'd properly watched with like proper like CGI and stuff. I guess, and I was just like, this is epic. Like these monsters.
And also, let's face it, as like a young lad, it had some hot chicks in it, didn't it?
Yeah.
It had Denise. Was it Denise Richards when she was in her prime, who was ridiculously hot? And who was that other lass with like the curly red hair?
Oh, I can't remember now.
And let's face it, as like a 9-year-old, when you're watching it in your bedroom, like a 10-year-old or something, she got her boobies out in that one scene.
Yeah, that was like epic.
That starts getting the hairs growing on your balls. That does.
Yeah, man.
It started it all.
Suddenly, you get a little hedgehog down there, you know. 1 minute you're
like with a cane.
1 minute you're like a mole rat, you know. And the next minute
a common water vole.
A common water vole. And the next thing something's happening, you know. Yeah. And it's all because of movies like Starship Troopers.
Fire's coming alive.
It's the combination of like
those three movies.
The masculine.
That's the trifecta.
The trifecta. Yeah, the trifecta. Yeah, those three movies. It's what make you become a man.
Yeah,
that's what society's missing nowadays. Man.
I think they were my biggest inspiration as a kid. Those three movies.
Well, yeah, and then there's Salma Hayek in Dusk Till Dawn as well. You know, she was a good-looking lady. Sorry to any women out there listening. That's just gone a bit of like a male theme.
Oh, it's just but when you're young and we love it.
Sorry,
we love
or am I not sorry?
It takes
I don't even
path.
know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and that bit in Dusk Till Dawn where he's got like the gun down by his crotch and he's just like.
Did you hear? You know, yeah. Did you know that Quentin Tarantino is actually in that movie and he doesn't star in many of his movies, does he? Did you know that he
got shot through the hand in it?
Well, not that. I was going to say that he put himself in that role because he's really famously got a foot fetish.
Yeah.
And Salma Hayek, like to this day, is like freaking gorgeous, isn't she? But like she is even now. She's in her 50s and she's still stunning. But in the 90s, obviously, she was like A grade. You know what I mean? And yeah, he put himself in the role of the guy that like licks her foot in the movie just because he was like and he was like so shameless about it as well. He was just like, yeah, it's because like I've got a foot fetish.
I just wanted to lick her
He's
foot.
like, she's a beautiful woman. She's got beautiful feet.
I find it hilarious that is one of the most like Quentin Tarantino things is that if you watch a Quentin Tarantino movie, you always know there's going to be like shots of just a woman's feet right up at the camera. That's like one of his signature shots.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Yeah. Good old Quentin Tarantino. He's a guy that just doesn't care, isn't he? He's one of those guys that just doesn't care. And I think that's good though, like. Yeah. Let's stop the BS.
Yeah. Clearly loves his craft as well. Whenever I see like an interview with Quentin Tarantino, he's such like a nerd when it comes to film, and it's just like very respectable.
He takes his job seriously, doesn't
he? Yeah, 100%, man.
He takes his job seriously.
Yeah, he doesn't like digital either. He still shoots everything in film.
He's got his last ever film coming up soon.
Really?
I think so. I think I read that. I'll search up what it is. I feel like I've seen a post that he was
like in his 80s or anything.
I don't know if he said that he wanted to go on to like making TV stuff. Or series, but I think it was like his last sort of feature film.
I reckon he's probably in his 60s, I reckon. Because I think he was already making like A-listers by the 90s. But I think if he was in his 20s at the time, maybe he would have been a bit too young to be making such
epic material.
Yeah,
Reservoir Dogs.
I reckon it really...
So different kind of films as well, doesn't he? Like Hostel is so much different to something like Once Upon a Time in
Hostel?
Yeah.
I didn't realise that.
That's like a really early Quentin Tarantino film.
Obviously did Pulp Fiction, Django... what was that? Hateful Eight. I really enjoyed Hateful Eight.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was like when I told you about where Kurt Russell accidentally smashed up that fucking vintage Martin guitar.
Yeah, that's insane.
I can't remember if I said that on the pod or not.
I think you did. Yeah, or it might have been a radio show. But
Martin guitars, like really like great. Like just generously, like they let the Quentin Tarantino and the whole production of the Grateful Eight have this genuine like cowboy era. Martin guitar. For anybody that doesn't into guitars, Martin is one of the most well-respected guitar brands on the planet, aren't there? There's like some up there, obviously things like for Fender acoustic, and Gibson 100%. Are more well-known. I think that's probably because of the electrics and because electrics,
Yeah, like Martin and Taylor are like almost like the king of the acoustics.
Yes. Well, and probably Gibson as well.
Yeah, and Gibson,
But obviously Gibson are much more famous for like Les Pauls and stuff. But
purely acoustic. Yeah,
Martin and also Martin. I think I'm right in saying like Martin were the first company to actually make like steel string guitars, aren't they?
The Dreadnought. Yeah, the D18 Dreadnought. Yeah, I think that was like the first one.
And they're an American brand, so American guitarists are like super proud of Martin. It's almost part of like
heritage.
American like musical culture. It's like Martin is like revered, almost like the same way that they revere like the flag and like their amendments and all this stuff. The Declaration and all that stuff of independence. They like love Martin guitars and obviously rightfully so. But yeah, Martin like lent the production this genuine cowboy era Martin guitar that was in really good shape, which had been kept in this like glass cabinet for like over 100 years. And they had props of the guitar on set. And there's this one scene where Kurt Russell's supposed to break one of the guitars because he gets really fed up of one of the other
playing it.
Yeah, like of playing it. They were doing the scene and he accidentally picked up the real one because obviously the props they made him look exactly the same and he accidentally picked up the real one and smashed it, and it was like I can't remember, it was like the guitar was valued at something like £300,000 something like that, and Martin were like super upset about it, and they just released a statement afterwards and they were like, we are never gonna like lend a guitar to like a movie company ever again. But it was one of those moments like, oh damn,
oopsie.
Imagine being Kurt Russell in that moment, like,
yeah, I really want to hear him talk about that. Or
I wonder if he ever did.
Yeah.
I wonder if do you reckon he had to pay for it? Do you reckon that came out of his wages?
I have no idea, man. I literally have no idea.
I probably, or maybe insurance. I guess all these like movie things are like heavily insured for sure. Things going wrong,
Yeah,
stuff,
for sure, man.
Here, I found out what his final movie is going to be. The Movie Critic is the name of it. It's a script which he's just wrote. Logline details are being kept in a suitcase, but sources describe the story as being set in the late 1970s Los Angeles with a female lead at its centre.
Nice 70s movie.
It's possible that the story focuses on Pauline Kael, one of the most influential movie critics of all time.
Pauline Kael.
Kael. To be fair, it's Kael. So it actually might be Kael.
Or maybe just like Kale.
Kael.
Or Kael.
Yeah, but it looks like that's going to be the focus of it. He also had a really cool, well, I say cool, just an interesting sort of quote here about why he wants to retire. He also espoused a philosophy that directors get out of touch as they age. In 2012, he told Playboy, "I want to stop at a certain point. Directors don't get better as they get older. Usually the worst films in their filmography are those last 4 at the end. I am all about my filmography, and one bad film F's up 3 good ones. I don't want that bad out-of-touch comedy in my filmography. The movie that makes people think, oh man, he still thinks it's 20 years ago. When directors get out of date, it is not pretty.
I have to say, I don't think I've ever not enjoyed a Tarantino movie.
No.
Like, even the ones that are like, I don't think Hateful Eight was like seen anywhere near as good as things like
I love Django,
Kill
though.
Bill.
Yeah,
like
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, Kill Bill. Obviously, like, Pulp Fiction, a lot of people think that's one of the best movies of all time, but I freaking loved Hateful Eight, and I loved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as well. I thought that with Brad
I love
Pitt
Django. I think Django's such a good movie. So good.
Yeah, me too. I remember being on holiday, and that was one of the highlights of my holiday was just watching that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh yeah,
just
really good.
because I remember I recommended it to you, didn't I?
Yeah.
And then there was a guy that used to work here at the time,
and he said he didn't like it that much.
and I remember I was like almost like confused by it. I was like, because it wasn't just me. I remember me and them watched it while we were like having some food. I was whacked on, and we were both loving it.
Yeah.
We were both like, that's the best movie
Enthralled.
we've watched in ages. Yeah, we were enthralled. We were enthralled by it. Taken by the movie. I just loved it. You know, I thought everything about it was great. All the acting in it was great. It had this like sinister back plot, and there was a crazy hippie cult, and it turned out to be Manson cult. Oh, I loved it, man.
Yeah, man, I love those
Leonardo
little hats
DiCaprio's
onto those.
hilarious in it as well.
He's such a good actor, man. I watched Catch Me If You Can this week, and that's the
I don't think
movie.
I've ever seen it.
It's
No, I haven't seen that.
Man, you guys have got to watch it. You'd love it. It's based on a real story, right, of a American con man called Frank Abagnale
Oh yeah, I have
Jr.
seen it actually.
Yeah, man, and it's so, like this is like a real person. Like the stuff that he did in the film is real. It's got Tom Hanks in it as the other like supporting actor.
He's
and,
chasing him, isn't he?
He's just chasing him.
Yeah.
He's like the FBI agent that's chasing him the whole
It's a good
time.
movie.
And this guy is just like the craziest con man ever. Gets away with everything. It's just so good. I won't spoil the ending, but ridiculously good movie, and it just shows how good. I think Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks are both up there as some like the best actors of this
It's
generation.
crazy with our brains, like how we're so visual creatures, us humans. Like movies are just one of the best things in the world
Yeah, man.
ever. Aren't
If you
they?
think about it, they're almost like a bit weird in a way. Like if you actually think about what a movie
it's so
is.
weird that you can actually, you know, it's not real, but you can turn
get
off
so
all
invested,
of
can't
those
you?
real, like this isn't real filters,
Yeah.
and just enjoy it for what it is, and it's like
Regardless
a
of how mental
story.
it is as well.
Yeah.
It's mad.
And like, I love how you can just turn off that realistic thing of your brain, and you can actually just enjoy it so much. Like I think that with series as well. I get lost in them, and I'm just like, this is flipping amazing, you know?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It must have been such a cool experience when movies first started coming around, and people finally got to get that escapism and without their own imagination, but with it almost being fed to you.
Yeah, and now at the level it is,
Yeah.
it's just like.
Didn't we look it up and it was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was like the first movie?
Because
Because I thought it was Nosferatu. Do you remember? And it turned
I
out.
think weren't we saying
turned
about
out-
horrors then though?
Oh, was that was
Yeah,
first
There was
horror?
a lot, to be
horrors.
fair, there was a lot of horrors right at the start. I've got a like,
'Cause they were
book, the
silent
details
movies,
right at
weren't
the
they?
start.
Yeah.
It was silent movies at first. They couldn't put audio to it, so they would put like all
Black and white
They would put like
silent.
funny, like almost like classical music to it, and it would be like really dramatic and stuff. Like,
And it was always looked a bit sped up as well because of the way that they did the frame rates and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
It looked a bit like kind of sped up and.
it's quite interesting, isn't it? Yeah. I was thinking. I tell you what.
Oh dear lord!
You alright, mate? He's coughing on his coughing, breathing in his own essence. Hey, everyone take a prayer for Drew.
Oh, do you know when like you breathe in like
man, I hate
liquid
that.
and it's just like you can't get out of your lungs?
Or even worse, if you're like eating some food and like a bit of rice tries to go down your air pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if you've got like some like Frank's hot sauce on that bad
Oh,
boy or something,
man.
you know what I mean? And
Devastation.
Mess you up for a couple of minutes. Your eyes start watering. You're like, man, I just playing with life, man. I'm playing with my mortality here, you know. But yeah, some of the practical effects on those old movies are like surprisingly good. Like they sort of like spin me out. There's this one scene, I can't remember what movie it is. It's like there's this witch. It's this female character that plays a witch.
I know exactly what you're talking
and it's
about.
a practical
It's
effect.
crazy.
And the way they did it was amazing. And then I looked into it, and they said that they did it. It was all to do with like they used it through light. So they made some fluorescent light or something. They put makeup on her that made her look grotesque, but then they put some sort of light on her which made the makeup look invisible, so you could see her normal face. And then what they did is when they were filming it, then they just like moved the light away, and then it made her look like her face slowly transformed. But it was all, and I thought that's so clever.
Yeah.
Let me see, like old
It's
school.
such a good clip, man. I don't know what film it's from.
I think old school witch transformation. Let's see if I can get it up for people What?
This will be interesting. We'll have to see if it gets picked up by YouTube again.
Yeah.
We'll
That's happening.
Either you're hearing this now
and
there's nothing after,
this is it.
Or it will be here.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, so for people that are listening to us on the radio, I know I always say this, but just if you are listening to the radio and it's the first time listening to the pod, if you go on Spotify and type in Pandoras Box Podcast or YouTube, you can watch the footage of this. So this is this old school witch transformation. Let me try and get it in best quality possible. It probably already is, isn't it? Yeah. Right, so I'll turn down the volume a little bit on it. So watch this, guys. This is old school practical effects.
You'll die like that fool Captain Hook who thought he couldn't.
So it looks like a normal old lady at the moment.
You are the octopus.
You are the octopus.
Oh, dang.
All right, Mr. Morgan.
Yeah, that's pretty good, isn't it?
Whoa.
Back in the days, like before CGI and all that.
Do that again. Just do that a little bit again.
Man, it's such a better transformation than some of the ones you see in like modern day movies now.
Whoa. That is insane how they did that. I don't get it.
All right, Mr. Morgan.
As I said, it's like what they did is, so she looks like that.
Right.
And obviously they put the wig on her, so in that regard it's like pretty easy, so they just made her hair look all greasy and stuff, but she looks like that. But what they did is they had this special makeup that if you shone a certain type of light on it, it would make the makeup look invisible, so you can just so it shows she just looks normal. So then what they did is during the transformation scene they then move the light away or turn the light off, something like that. I expect they moved it away so it looked transitional, and then it suddenly makes the makeup show up. So in that regard it's quite practical.
Wow,
you can
on
say.
the teeth and everything, they like painted her teeth with it. That's so cool.
Have a pair of arms for it.
Yeah, it's clever, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Oh, mate, that looks pretty sketchy. Let's have a look at this one. I don't think I've seen this before. This is the Jekyll to Hyde transformation. This looks pretty sketchy, man, already. Let's I'll speed this up a little bit because I don't know when it starts. Oh, baby. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Very dramatic organ.
That was cool. So he was a bit like...
I wonder how they did this, because I obviously have no information about this. Mate, he is going nuts. That guy's going nuts.
Man, I need to watch these old movies.
It'd be good almost like as like a case study, wouldn't it? Oh, he's going to go weird. I mean, he already is pretty weird, let's face it.
Hello, I'm Mr. Hyde.
Oh, what's going to happen? Oh, and his hands are going weird.
That was a cut shot.
His hands went from Bullwinkle to mine in like 2 seconds.
So that's cool. So they've just done it on one point of his...
Oh dear, my weird hand. Oh, look.
Oh, touch it. Oh, my face. Oh, dear.
Oh dear. Oh, mate, look at that. Oh, I love the music. That is epic music.
Have you ever watched this movie?
No, I haven't.
Oh, man. You gotta watch it.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Oh, dearie me.
Oh, mate, I want to see this one. This one looks like it'll be really cool because it's quite like close up. Oh, so he's drank a potion. This guy's drank a potion. Yeah, Barrymore must be the first one, then March, and then Tracy. So I think this must be March. This is pretty cool practical effects, isn't it?
Yeah, that looked like it was...
the same one as the one with the lady, I reckon, yeah. It just goes to show... Oh, look at that. That's a bit creepy, isn't it?
Hey, my name's Cletus.
Oh, he's got like a little like monkey man.
That's if I was...
Yeah. That was Drew when I first met him. Straight down from Hartlepool.
That's Calum when I first met him.
I was on the Lou at the time.
Yeah.
I was on the John. Didn't eat enough fibre the day before, man. Forgot to take my Weetabix. Oh, mate, I love that.
I think the first one was more sketchy, wasn't it? Like, as in, like, not this director's, the Barrymore ones.
Yeah.
Were a bit more freaky.
So what's this one? So this is the last one, I guess. Is it the last one?
Look! But, Doctor, this is impossible. I know it is. But there's your man. I'm sorry, sir. You appear to be serious, but look!
Mate, that's a bit sketchy, isn't it? That's quite sketchy. Mate, that looks... I mean, imagine if you woke up in the middle of the night and that was at the end of your bed. you know. It makes it more sinister. Oh, I think this is the last one then. So the last one was March as well. So this is the Tracy one. He's a bit excited.
Oh,
it's like you when you have a good idea, Drew, and you're trying to like put it all together in your head before you say about it.
Yeah. Is that what you just see sometimes when you look over and you see my eyes
Wait
going,
a minute. And then suddenly just turn into this. This is the idea. It's all coming to fruition.
It makes you sweat when you have a good idea.
To be honest, that one's not very scary.
No,
like that one doesn't really like.
I'm Dr. Henry Jekyll.
It didn't really look that much different than in before, you know.
I've done nothing.
I've done nothing.
I'm Dr. Jekyll.
I'm Dr. Jekyll.
I'm Dr. Henry Jekyll, I tell you. I've done nothing. You're looking for a man named Hyde.
I do think practical effects are more sketchy.
Yeah.
Dr. Henry Jekyll.
That's why I always say it, but I loved like the Lord of the Rings movies when all of the orcs and stuff were all just real, not CGI'd.
Yeah, man,
that's
100%.
crazy.
As I said, like, I think we've talked about it before, but the practical effects in horror movies like Rosemary's Baby, in my opinion, are so much more scary than any modern movie. Like, the ending of Rosemary's Baby is freaking freaky.
Do you think it's a bit of like a BS meter that we have in our heads when we see something like real and physical compared to when we see something like CGI'd or like digitally created? It's almost like there's something
our brains can figure out that it's not real.
Yeah. And like, because I always think that no matter how good CGI is, there's like this thing that I know I said about movies but that's more the story and stuff I'm talking about. But like, yeah, when you see some CGI and there's just some BS meter inside you that's a bit like, yeah, that just doesn't look real.
Yeah.
Like, you know, compared to just a physical, if someone's got makeup on, even though it's still a digital thing on a screen that you're watching digitally, it looks more real to you somehow.
And the proof's in the pudding, because look at the success of Jurassic Park, which they used massive they used practical effects wherever possible. They did use some early CGI, really revolutionary CGI for the very far away shots. But they used majority of the the scenes were practical effects, and all the sketchy ones that people remember, like when the T-Rex comes through the car, the Velociraptors in the building, all the close-up of the Velociraptors' faces. As you said, Lord of the Rings, all the old-school horror movies, which I think chilled people way more than modern horror movies chill people. Whether it's The Exorcist, all of those practical effects, The Exorcist, the way that Freddy Krueger looks, Jason Voorhees, all of these classic ones. As I said, Rosemary's Baby. The scene with Satan in it, and it's not just the practical effects as well. It's that whole idea of why they say that often books are better than movies, or why it's really hard to make a movie as good as its book counterpart, because our imagination can conjure things like far more fascinating and whether it's fantastical or just downright terrifying than actually something in reality can. So. At the end of Rosemary's Baby, there's a clip where all it is playing off. I think it's Mia Farrow, the actress. I think it's Mia Farrow, really famous actress in her day. I'm pretty sure it's Mia Farrow. I might be wrong. What makes it terrifying is just her reaction. So it doesn't show anything at all. It's just her reaction. But visceral. Because her acting's so good, and you're almost thinking like, "Oh my god, what is it? What is it?" But I tell you what, man. When I first watched that, it was like late at night. I watched that at my parents' house when I was younger. And man, I was like, man, that like got me. You know, I was like, Jesus. I was like, you sort of like want to see it, and you sort of don't, and you're sort of like really conflicted between the two, because it's like, you know, the story, the way they're doing the music, the way the storyline's built up, the acting, and it's like it's terrifying, man. Whereas I feel like nowadays, because they can, it's almost like it's weird. It's like a weird thing that humans do, and it's like if you can do it, you do it regardless of whether it's actually better to do it or not. And I think we're a bit like that in movies at the moment. And maybe we're starting to learn, I think, at this stage, and now reverting back because of enough of like feedback from the general public from going to watch movies. And I think we're learning from that a bit. But I think horror movies especially went through a phase of about like 15 years when like that CGI boom happened around sort of like the early 2000s to late 2000s, when suddenly CGI got really good quite quickly. And they were just CGIing everything. So all these horror movies, they've got like all of these freaking like demons and that they just show outright. And for some reason, it's like the movie, I feel like any like ambiance and like chill and like moodiness and feelings of like creeping terror that have built up until the moment when they show the creature almost like dissipate as soon as they actually show the creature.
Just completely breaks your immersion.
It does, doesn't it? And I don't even care. Like a lot of people say, like movies like Insidious or
that was it, Insidious. I was thinking one did that for me, and it was Insidious. I think.
Yeah, because
there was a lot of suspense, and it was like thing. But then when you saw the demon, it was
Darth
like,
Maul.
Oh,
yeah.
You see Darth Maul, and I think, well, you know, you could be like a kid, go to the cinema and watch Star Wars: Phantom Menace, and you're not like terrified by Darth Maul. Like, is he a sinister bad guy? Yeah, but I'm not going to wait at night like freaking terrified of him. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Darth Maul's going to come get you.
Yeah, exactly. Or you think about like the cantina scenes in Star Wars, like even in the original movies, like the practical effects, it's like, yeah, like some of the freaking aliens in it, they look a bit mental, but I'm not like at night like, oh man, I hope that alien from the cantina in Star Wars will come get me. But the thing is, it's like a lot of these like creatures in horror movies just look a lot like aliens in say Star Wars. So it's like as soon as you see it, it takes away the chill. Whereas when these older horror movies like The Devil Rides Out, Rosemary's Baby, all of these ones, and it's like, all right, The Exorcist, even though you see her and she looks terrifying in her practical effects, you don't actually see what the demon that's possessing her looks like. And there's this like unseen background thing which brings this really sinister menace and like sinister element to it, which really freaking chills you, man.
They played off that in Bird Box recently, didn't they? I can't remember. I reckon Bird Box came out around 2018, and it came out on Netflix as an original. And it did. I haven't seen it, but it did really, really well. Like when it first came out, it was top of Netflix and everything. And the whole
have that lady in? Oh, I'm sorry.
The whole plot of it was
Sandra Bullock.
Yeah. I've heard of it.
The whole plot of it was essentially that you couldn't actually look at the.
I remember thinking it was quite funny because I thought it was a good movie, but the year before, A Quiet Place came out.
Yeah.
And that was like, the premise of that was like, they got super sensitive hearing, the aliens, so you can't make a noise. So the whole movie, like Jim from The Office or John Krasinski, I think.
Who actually directed it as well.
Did he? He's a cool guy, man. He's a cool guy. And his real life wife, Emily Blunt, she's a great actress as well. Actually, they're like the two main characters, and they've got like their kids, and it's obviously the whole thing is like keeping alive, and they have to stay quiet because these aliens have come down to Earth and they're like super aggressive, like bestial aliens. And it's like if you like even like did anything over a whisper, they could just like hear from like a mile off, and they would just come and kill you.
Mad.
But so I almost thought it was a bit funny because in a way I did think it was almost like a bit of a rip off. So it was like the whole premise. It was like, okay, aliens that you can't speak, and then it was like the year after it was like aliens that you can't see. But no, it was a good movie though. It was a good movie.
I remember it coming out, but I never watched it.
Yeah, I didn't watch it.
Both of them are quite similar in terms of the fact that like the premise is like, you know, it's like the Earth is like it is now, normal day to Earth, and then boom, these like aliens just invade, and like overnight the Earth's just like
is a different place.
It's like man, alien takeover, and it's like people are just suddenly just. And it's weird. It's like in Bird Box, it's almost like people go mental when they see the.
Why is it called Bird Box?
That's such a weird name. There's a reason that I can't remember why. There's a reason that I can't remember. It's something to do with actual birds. Something to do with like the birds can see the creatures for some reason, and they will alert you. Something like that.
Right.
Something like that.
There's been a bit of a resurrection of cinema recently. I feel like before COVID, it was almost on a bit of a downward trajectory. You'd have the odd big film, something like an Infinity War that would come out where you would have the cinemas sold out. But I used to go to the cinema all the time before COVID, and pretty much even if you'd go on release day of a film, it was just like empty. You could go in, there'd be no one sat in there all the time. But since COVID's happened, it's almost like everyone realised how much it is nice to actually be out of the house, going out and watching films in the cinema.
Yeah,
and since then, there's definitely been more like people going regularly to the cinema. From what I've seen, at least, like all the movies that I've been to recently went to like a sold out film. There's so many at the moment, which is really like positive thing, I think.
Cinematic.
I've always loved going to the cinema.
Yeah, definitely. Me too.
It's a nice thing to do. Isn't it?
I think people got like really comfortable with the idea of streaming movies, didn't they? And it was almost like everyone would just rather watch it at home for a time, which is why you probably didn't see that many people at the cinema.
It's a bit like the difference between going out for a meal and having a nice meal at home, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like obviously, primarily, the most of the time you want to have a nice meal at home, but then it's like special and it seems nice to go out for a meal. In the same way, it's special and it's nice to go out to see, like, if it's a movie you've been really looking forward to seeing, or a movie you've heard a lot of good stuff about. Then if it's like your missus or like a good mate of yours or something, you know, you go and maybe get some food before, or just get a big
whole experience.
And you sit down. Obviously, the sound system's amazing. There's this great big screen. Yeah, it's great.
It seems like the perfect, almost like way to indulge yourself completely within the movie, doesn't it? It's like you're in this really dark room.
That's the only reason you're there. There's nothing going to distract
no distractions.
You. Like when you're at home and you can just pause it and just be like, I'm just going to go and get this.
Yeah, you're not going to check your phone or anything like that. It's great. Should we have some other May 22nd facts?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So some more things that happened on May 22nd in history. I feel like this is a bit of a crap Guinness World Record. In 2015, what's up, Bullwinkle?
Your chair was hitting it, man. That was
right.
In 2015, Hollywood superstar Dwayne Johnson set a Guinness World Record for the most selfies taken in 3 minutes. Dwayne captured 105 selfies on the red carpet at the world premiere of his new film San Andreas. Yeah, setting a Guinness World Record. I feel though, right? I feel like for a 6'5", like 280 pound, like jacked bloke, I feel like that your sole Guinness World Record is how like having the record for the most selfies taken. I feel it's pretty rubbish.
Yeah.
What's the regulation of that? It has to be with a different person every selfie, I would imagine.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Because otherwise, I could beat that record now.
Yeah.
Do it, Bullwinkle. Do it. Do it on air.
I'll beat The Rock.
We'll send it. We'll send the footage to Guinness World Record. Imagine if you actually got it, and then it was officially just actually in the next Guinness World Record. It was like Nathaniel Warren, world record holder, 106 selfies made in a 5 minute. Oh, sorry, 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Let's say some other 22nd of May facts. In 1995, on the 22nd of May. 2 new moons of Saturn were found in photos from the Hubble Space Telescope by astronomers Amanda S. Bosch and Andrew S. Rivkin. Respect Amanda Bosch and Andrew Rivkin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool, isn't it, to say that you've just discovered like something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Well, this is a cool fact as well. For all your gaming fans out there, obviously this is a legendary game. On the 22nd of May, 1980, Namco installed the very first Pac-Man arcade machine in Shibuya, Tokyo. This iconic game was released as Puck-Man, based on the character's resemblance to a hockey puck. However, when the game came to North America, Namco rightly feared that people would vandalise machines to turn Puck-Man into something a little bit less PG-13, so they changed the name to Pac-Man.
I like that fact.
That's so funny. Isn't it? Yeah. In 1942, on the 22nd of May, Mexico declared war on Nazi Germany and Japan, joining the Allies in their fight. So that's pretty cool, isn't it? Mm-hmm. In 1939, on the 22nd of May, this is another World War II fact, the Pact of Steel was signed, which was an agreement between Mussolini, the fascist leader of Italy, and, of course, the head of the Nazi party, Adolf Hitler. Damn. Yeah, well, how did that turn out for you fellas, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Suck it! Just to make it full attitude era.
Oh yeah.
Taking like one of the most like serious things in history and just turning it into like a DX chop, baby.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's. Oh yeah, this is another pretty cool fact. In 1863, on the 22nd of May, the famous Reno gang robbed its 4th train, one of the biggest gangs of their time. The gang boarded the train while it was stopped and uncoupled the passenger cars. They then broke open the safe and got away with $96,000.
That's a
Got to bear in mind
man.
at the time.
I was going to say, I wonder how much that is now.
They were like freaking well good at their jobs as well, if you can call it a job. The robbers were pursued by law enforcement, but they broke up and fled throughout the Midwest, getting away.
Damn,
son, that's like proper like Red Dead Redemption style, isn't it? That's basically it. I mean, that's what Red Dead Redemption like was based on, wasn't it? Is all these things.
That's awesome, man.
I was thinking though back to what you were saying, Drew, about Blade, because I remember I wanted to say about that. You know, you were just saying how epic it is. Literally, like how good does that movie start? Do you remember? It's like a nightclub, and there's like dance music playing or whatever, and he just walks
through the middle,
and there's all that blood spraying. It's like a nightclub of vampires and that, and he just freaking just like murks all the vampires in that scene. It's just like epic.
Man, I want to watch it again now.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
I've never seen Blade. I've heard how good it is, but I've never actually seen it.
So good.
I've got to watch it.
You have to see Blade.
Gotta watch it.
I remember my Uncle Dom introduced it to me because he was like my go-to guy for all that stuff. Like he'd show me all of that stuff, you know. And I just remember watching it with his girlfriend Lisa at the time. Shout out Lisa Williams. What a great woman Lisa is. But I remember watching Blade and just like absolutely loving it because obviously he was like really like legit high grade martial artist as well, wasn't he? So in the movie, he's just all his moves and he's just got that sword. Yeah, because my Uncle Dom showed that movie to me when I was younger because I loved it so much. I can't remember, back when I was about like 25 or 26 for my Uncle Dom's birthday, I bought him like a Blade replica sword.
Whoa!
And it comes with like the back thing and everything.
That's crazy.
So like it's real funny, yeah. And I just remember my Uncle Dom like loved it and like put it on. He was just walking around the house. And I also, because he's like favourite Star Wars characters, Boba Fett, I got him like a replica Boba Fett helmet. And I remember just once I went over to like go see him at his house and he just came down the stairs with like the Boba Fett helmet on his Blade. It's like badass, you know.
That's it.
Brilliant.
Yeah, man. Shout out Uncle Dom. Right, should we bring some more? These are just general quickfire facts now.
Quickfire facts, baby.
Did you know that the Navajo Indians have a tradition of celebrating a baby's first laugh? After 3 months, babies are closely watched for their first giggle. The person who elicits the first laugh then throws them a party.
Oh, that's really nice.
That's really wholesome,
so
isn't
cool.
it? That is really wholesome. I like that fact. Did you know that 75% of the world's food comes from just variations of the same 12 plants and 5 animal species? The 12 plants are wheat, rice, corn, sugarcane, soy, potatoes, palm oil, cassava, sorghum, millet, groundnuts, and sweet potatoes, while the 5 animal products are beef, chicken, buffalo, pig, and goat. That's so just different combinations of those things make up for 75% of the world's food. And then that makes me think as well, they haven't included any fish in that, so surely if you just include fish, that's probably like 95% or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's cassava?
I don't know, mate.
That's so weird that it encompasses so much.
I'll look it up. Cassava. Let's find out what cassava is, everybody.
It's almost a little bit worrying in a way, isn't it? That's sort of the plot for Interstellar. It's like one by one, all of the different seeds just start to like not be able to harvest, and then they've just by the end they've only got wheat, and that's why everyone just becomes like a wheat farmer. They disband, and NASA, they disband all these different jobs, occupations, so that everyone can just be a wheat farmer to produce their only food that there is left. But then they end up just having to find a new planet to live on because the Earth clearly is gonna start killing all the wheat eventually.
Yeah, it's mad.
Scary, man.
So it's cool. They look a little bit like sweet potatoes. It says cassava is a root vegetable.
Yeah, I've seen that. Actually.
It is the underground part of the cassava shrub, which has a Latin name, Manihot esculenta. I like potatoes and yams. Yams are just American word for sweet potatoes, I think.
Yams.
It's so funny isn't it, how Americans just say certain things they say that just seem weird
sweet
to us.
Sweet potato, yam.
I'm pretty sure that's what they call sweet potatoes, isn't it?
Don't know.
If I'm wrong, then
It's what they have at Thanksgiving, isn't it?
Yeah, yams. I feel like I might be wrong now, but I'm pretty sure that they just call sweet potatoes yams. Anyway, cassava roots have a similar shape to sweet potatoes. That's what I just said, isn't it? People can also eat the leaves of the cassava plant. They are grown in, they're native to South America. So maybe you saw one when you were in Peru or something, or Costa Rica.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Costa Rica, that was where there was some, had some there at the hotel, just in the buffet.
Well, let me see here, yam. See, that's definitely a sweet potato. What's that? Yams are closely related to lilies and grasses, native to Africa and Asia. Yams vary in size from that of a small potato to a record 130 pounds. What? That's like the weight
so
of
I think
you
they
or
are a
something,
little bit
Bullwinkle.
different from sweet potatoes.
30 pounds. How much?
Wait a minute. What is the difference between sweet potatoes and yams? Let's have a look at this.
Yams are starchier and drier.
I've gone down a rabbit hole now, haven't I? When many people are like, it's listening to the pod, and then the next thing you know, I'm just on this quest
sweet potatoes
to find
and
out the
yams.
difference between a yam and a sweet potato. It says, although yams and sweet potatoes are both angiosperms, they are not related botanically. Yams are a manacot, which is a plant having one embryonic seed leaf, and from the Dioscoridaceae or yam family. Sweet potatoes, often called yams, sweet potatoes are often called yams, are a dicot, a plant having 2 embryonic seed leaves, and are from the Convolvulaceae, or Kia,
Morning
Glory. Oh, baby, the Morning Glory family. That's your kind of family, Drew, isn't it?
Yeah, but I've also heard that Morning Glory seeds, people have crazy trips on them.
Morning Glory seeds?
And it's like a known thing.
What, just from eating the seed?
Yeah.
What type of Morning Glory seeds are we talking about?
Dunno.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You got me some of those Morning Glory seeds.
Giving Lady Megan some of that Morning Glory seed, baby.
I don't need no Morning Glory seed, man.
So yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it? So we've just found out about plants and stuff. That's pretty
Plants
cool, isn't
and
it?
yams.
That's pretty nuts, isn't it, though?
Plantar yams.
Yeah, it's funny
Damn.
because it says, while estimates vary, it's believed that there are over 30,000 different types of edible plants on the planet, yet 75% of the world's food does just come from those 12 plants and those 5 animal proteins. So out of over 30,000 edible plants, we commonly just eat 12 of them. Variations of 12. That's what was interesting. I showed you that guy. I'm pretty sure I showed you that guy. I follow a guy who's what's it called? Eat the Country. He's got a Facebook and an Instagram page called Eat the Country, and I find it really interesting. And it's this really like jovial, like sound chap, down to earth chap. and I'm pretty sure he's got like a master's degree in like botany. But he essentially just walks, like in each of his videos is just him walking along, like he'll just randomly be walking in the countryside. So it's like really super authentic. And then any plant he comes across, he'll just do a video on it. And he just knows his stuff ridiculously. So he'll be like, this is the common such and such flower, but the Latin name is such and such. And he's like, eat it or not. And then he's like, well, this will give you a little bit of a tummy ache. So you probably wouldn't want to eat it, but it's not that dangerous. And on other ones, he'll be like, this is delicious and it's really nutritious and you can cook it with this and blah, blah, blah. And you can use it as a substitute for that, blah, blah, blah. And other ones, he's like, don't eat this, you'll literally die. You know, but then he goes into like all the facts about it. And it's really interesting. And sometimes in his video, he like cooks and then he'll like bring out some like lamb shanks he's brought with him in his backpack, and he'll get out his pan and he'll make like a nature salad in like the middle of the freaking like woods or on the beach in like England, but all the veg is like stuff he knows that you can eat, and he's like just saying, you know, like you can make like really tasty food just from like basically what you could find in your back garden, but we just don't do it anymore. It's really weird, isn't it? It's really
man, want to learn about it so much.
What a good person that would be to have in an apocalypse. Just someone that knew all the different foods, what you could eat, what you couldn't, and could just make food out of anything that was lying around.
He's a sound guy as well. He's like, I think on Facebook alone he's got like over like 20,000 followers, but he's one of those guys like he like always replies. Like I remember he put up a video, I can't remember the name of the mushroom now, but it was like the largest species of mushroom in the UK, and he was like showing it, and it's like this. And then I came across one in the Quantock Hills when I was on like a hike about 4 years ago, and I took a picture of it because it was like freaking longer than my boot. And my boot's a big old boot. Look. Boot. That's me. You know? And I sent it as well, and he was like, and he just replied, another Whopper. But, you know, it's like someone's just like quite jovial and friendly and that. I thought it was pretty sound that he went to the effort to reply and stuff. Did you know? Do you know? Do you know, my friends?
Do you know?
There's another fact for you. Did you know that Montana law? Oh, I'd love to live in Montana. I think Montana's like one of my favourite US
Is that
states.
Where's Montana?
Is it
Montana's
near
like
Texas and stuff, like southern?
I don't think it's that close to Texas, but it's super like one of the most like wilderness rich regions
of
America.
I think you showed me some pictures of it actually, and was like, whoa,
dude. Right, I'll get up some pictures of Montana for everybody. Okay, so let's say this is pretty much like Montana looks like my heaven. If I die and I'm a good enough boy and I go to some sort of like,
you're not going to heaven, you're going to Montana.
When I die, I'm not going to heaven, I'm going to Montana.
Heaven or is this Montana?
That sounds like something like that would be like a line that people that live in Montana.
Yeah.
But honestly, guys, literally, for people out there that have never really looked into Montana, if you like your nature, like let me get up some of this, like. It's insane. It looks like frickin' Skyrim, baby. For any of you Elder Scrolls nerds out there, baby. It's like the most beautiful land you've ever seen in your life. Like, look at that. Imagine living in that house. Oh, look at that.
Swedish on that.
Swedish. Look, snow-peaked mountains in the distance. Massive lake. Oh, imagine going for a hike through here. Look at that. Look at the colour of that
beautiful.
lake. That whatever you want to call it. River. If you call it a river. I don't know, or is it just several little lakes? I don't know. But then you got the mountains and the trees. Oh, baby.
Looks beautiful.
Imagine going fishing in Montana. I want to go fishing in Montana, baby.
Fishing and trekking.
I want to go fishing in there.
Fishing, trekking and camping in Montana.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, baby. I want to be that
guy.
Wildflowers
of Montana.
Look at this.
Look at that. Look at this woodland.
Oh, baby. Look at that wild southwest Montana. Oh, man. I want to go to Montana. I want to live in Montana. I want to build a big old cabin in the middle of nowhere in Montana. I'll just live there for the rest of my days. Yeah, bro. Imagine if that was your house and then your nearest neighbour was like 10 miles away.
Yeah, and just had all those trees around you as well.
Oh, I love the fact that it's almost like a wood, like it's a wood
Montana
cabin.
Wilderness home.
Oh, baby, that's the goal, isn't it, guys?
Yeah.
That's where I want to retire to one day.
Man.
So good.
Just that's the way, isn't it? This is the way.
Timber built.
That's the way you want to live, guys. You know?
Looks like a lot of the houses are like timber in Montana.
It's probably just because of abundance of
timber.
Yeah, exactly. Like, let's face it, you use common sense in terms of like you use what's most abundant. So if you live near a quarry, you're probably going to build your house out of stone. If you live in a forest, you're going to build your house out of timber, aren't you? If there's like no stone around to quarry, you're not going to like break your back looking for it when there's like
Stonehenge.
Yeah, exactly. When you could just get a load of lush timber. Look at that, it was nice and snowy. Yeah, so guys, you get the picture. I love Montana.
Hannah, Montana.
But it's also one of the, in terms of like nature and stuff, it's quite dangerous because it's full of bears and wolves. But I guess, if you're like savvy and you like learn the land and you like take precautions. So, if you're really going to go trekking deep in there.
Yellowstone. I've heard of that.
Yeah.
I've been Yellowstone.
Have you?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Yellowstone's in
No, I haven't.
I thought Yellowstone was in... Do you know, it's interesting. I thought it was just in California, but it must leak into Montana. Isn't that interesting? And we've got to take a break a minute, guys, but we'll be back in a second.
You will open Pandora's box many times in your life. No, we probably really shouldn't open that box. Look, I've got one rule. Here.
Open your mind. Open your mind.
For those listening on La Radios, the track we just listened to was Hope by Rush. Just before that, we were talking about Montana and a bit about Yellowstone. I rather stupidly said that I thought a bit of like Yellowstone was in California, but it's not at all. I've looked it up, and it says that Yellowstone is mainly situated in Wyoming, but also creeps into neighboring Montana and Idaho.
And Idaho.
That would make sense as well, actually, because if I actually use some logic, like California is a desert, whereas like look at Yellowstone, it's all like it looks like Montana. Do you know what I mean? So it's like that wouldn't really make much sense.
I think the only reason I remember it is because did I say about that series that I've been watching, that Sweet Tooth, when it's like the hybrid kids?
You're saying about last week.
You told me about it. Yeah,
and in that where they go at the start to get one of the hybrid kids out and just like away from humanity and society, and that was Yellowstone. Like you saw the big sign for it, and that was like kind of where they were hiding out.
That's one of the ways the world could end, isn't it? By the Yellowstone volcano.
Volcano, yeah, it's got a massive volcano underneath it. A super volcano, as they call it.
Yeah, it's a super volcano, and I think they say, don't they, that if that one erupts, it will cause like so many ones to erupt, they would eventually just wipe out humanity, which is crazy.
I don't know if that was good. I know it'd at least be America. I've heard that, but I don't know, you might be right. I haven't like looked into it massively, but I've heard it. I know that it would basically wipe North America.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, because
before the asteroids hit or the volcanoes explode.
Oh dear, I can't remember how many thousands of years. Every so often, obviously the super
5,000.
It's more than that, but it's something like 60,000 years or something like that. Could be wildly off that, but it's quite a long time. Every now and again, basically, it erupts, and it's due.
Whoa!
So that's pretty nuts, isn't it? The fact that it's due.
I'll have a search and see if I can find out.
Find out how many often it on average it erupts.
Like the Earth's pimples.
Yeah, but exactly. But obviously Yellowstone's cool because if you look at this picture, it's got like the
buffalo.
Obviously, it's a national park, so it's.
I'd love to try some buffalo meat. I don't think I've had.
I've had buffalo burgers.
Yeah, I'd like to try some proper
really nice as well.
Buffalo.
I preferred it over venison, actually. It was like more. It didn't taste exactly like beef, but it was more beefy, which I liked. I liked that, and it's
the colours of that. That's not real, is it? Above the yellow, no, like that one above that one.
Yeah, I think it's all to do with like sulfur and like and deposits and stuff like that. That's one of the things, man.
That's so cool. The Earth is so cool.
And then meanwhile, look, it's this like salty. I can't remember. It's some sort of like salt water, and then look, it's like this weird greyish blue colour. But let's get back on with it. Anyway, it's so funny because I literally mentioned Montana because I was about to say a fact, and then just went off on a thing about Montana and didn't even tell you the guy's fact. So Montana law states that if a student rides a horse to school, the headmaster or principal, as they say in America, is responsible for feeding and walking the horse. 6 seniors discovered this law and, as a joke, rode horses to school on their last day of school. Their principal, to be fair to him, did all of those duties.
Whoa!
He made sure that all of the horses were fed and walked, and made sure that they had water. And it's just in the middle of like school. That's hilarious, isn't it? Fair play to that principal.
Like just getting in on the thing, and the last day of school for the students. Like, I like that.
That's sound, isn't it?
That's wholesome.
Another fact now: Voyager 1 and 2 both travel at 35,000 miles per hour and are about 900,000 miles away. Miles further away from Earth each day. Damn. They are now more than 10 billion miles away from Earth, and they launched in 1977.
So are they just probes that are flying out in the?
Yeah, are they still sending stuff back?
I think they are, man. Yeah, that's how we know that they haven't.
I wonder what technology they had in the 70s that could transmit anything back from that far away.
Well, it's interesting. Obviously, we talked about things before. We've talked about this, I think, before in the past, like a long time ago. But obviously, we tend to have this oversimplistic view as humans. We think that everything happens in like a linear fashion, but obviously it doesn't. Like technology can wax and wane the same way anything else in life can. So in our like aerospace capabilities, in a lot of ways, we've regressed since the 60s and 70s. Like when was the last time a guy went walking on the moon? Do you know what I mean? Like we achieved it in frickin' the 60s, back when my dad was like a little kid. You know, now my dad's coming up to his mid 60s. You know what I mean? It's like they don't put as much money and stuff into it. A lot of it is to do with that competition.
Elon will sort it out.
Space race.
Yeah,
he's sorting everything else out.
It was a competition between the Soviets and the Americans, wasn't it? The Soviets wanted to be the first people on the moon. It would have been like this massive global statement. The Yanks wanted to be the first one on the moon. The Soviets managed to get the first man in space, didn't he?
Yuri Gagarin.
That's it. And then Americans were the first actually on the moon, so they were like, haha, yeah. But it's almost like they won that, and then it was almost like a bit, okay, well, this costs a lot of money, and a couple of astronauts died, and then it was almost like
discontinue.
Yeah, exactly, man.
That was what, you know how earlier on I was talking to you guys about how I was watching this video on, you know, whether there's actually aliens out there, whether there are sort of type 3 aliens, or whether anything else that is out there that's intelligent would have been on our level, all that kind of stuff. One of the interesting things I found about it was that Stephen Hawking, apparently, obviously like space genius, Stephen Hawking, thinks that we should have never sent out like radio signals
because
out
it's
into
like
the universe.
Not to advertise our presence to alien species.
Exactly. He thinks that we should just stay quiet, because if there is something out there, like that, I think the reasoning he had was that every single example we've got in the past of people showing up on other people's shores would have been stuff like Americans going to America and just wiping the Native American population out, and it's not even necessarily that if they did come over they would be aggressive towards us, but they could bring some sort of bacteria that we've never seen before that could just wipe out humanity as a whole. And that's a pretty sketchy.
I heard that before.
Sketchy thing.
I mean, I heard
cross contamination.
I guess you could say that that's like a bit of like a negative way to look at things, couldn't you? Because I mean, it's like, I mean, yeah, there's obviously a lot of truth to what he's saying, but then there's also a lot of truth to say. I mean, who's to say that the aliens wouldn't introduce us to this like weird thing that eradicates all illness? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, who knows?
If they're technologically advanced enough to be able to eradicate that from their society, would they share like some of that technology with us or something like that?
I just think we just don't know. I mean, obviously I do think obviously there is a lot of, I guess one good thing is to always be cautious, isn't it? And he's taking the like overly cautious approach. I mean, we might find out one day he might be right if some freaking crazy Independence Day style aliens come down, you know, or it turns into like Mars attack or something. Like in
that Joe Rogan episode where he was talking about the stench of like when the ship was melting, and almost like the like this acidic, acrid smell that from like the decomposition.
Mate, it's like whenever you go to like a metal
material,
show,
like that's like the worst thing about being a metaler. Flip flop.
Isn't it? Yeah, that's the worst thing about being a metaler. Is like, you know, I mean, let's face it, you know, I mean, me and Drew are metalers and we wash most of the time. Most of the time, you know, and like, you know, most of our mates wash and they usually smell nice. But you know, let's face it, there's you know what I mean?
Some people don't.
There's a certain type of metaler, isn't there? And they got
give a damn.
They got like long hair, but they never wash it. And you're standing next to them, and obviously metal gigs are very intimate. You know, you're all crammed together and you're all sweating, and they're
like an angry orgy.
Yeah, like an angry but sort of united orgy of sort of like aggression but loving at the same time. It's a weird vibe, isn't it? Metal gigs, but like, you know, it's always your luck in it. You'll be like stuck next to like the smelly metalers, and they just smell like pure BO and ass. You know, like their hair's just like greasy. And you can almost like smell the oil on their head. You see like lice running through as you're like trying to, and you're like, oh man, you know. It's like, dude, come on, man. You know, there's a thing right that was invented, and it's called soap. And just every now and again, just wipe it on your armpits and on your balls. All right. You know, and then just rinse it off. And then maybe, as well, if you're feeling real fruity, there's this thing called deodorant. And just spray a bit of that on afterwards, you know. But it's like bare minimum, you know. It's not like you have to go and get your hair permed or something. Just wash it once a week, brah. You know? Bit of shampoo in that son of a gun every now and again, you know?
I used this shampoo a couple of days ago. Like, the good thing about having like a girlfriend, a partner, fiance, that is just so into just all of these just all these crazy products that you would never think of using or doing or anything, like For me, like
Exfoliating your balls.
deodorant, just like this stuff, like
Yeah, man,
this
yeah,
this
exfoliating balls,
this
yeah.
this deodorant. There's this deodorant called Native Deodorant. It's all made out of like natural stuff, so it's not like a roll-on, it's not like a spray. It's almost like a bar of soap, but it's like the bar is like waxes onto you, if you know what I mean. Like you just like rub it. I know it sounds weird, but it's so nice. Like you smell it and you think you could almost eat it. You know, it's all like natural products and stuff like that.
Try it.
And then there's this other place called Neil's Yard, right?
Neil's.
And it's like really expensive. Like it's about £9 for a little bottle of shampoo and like
Spicy,
£9
mate,
for a
spicy.
bottle of conditioner. But I used that on my hair a couple of days ago, and I was like, oh my god, it's like putting like natural essential oils like in your hair with like all the and
Give us a little. Just take your headphones off a minute and give us a little.
a little.
You know. Oh baby, look at that.
In fact, I watched
Maybe
it with
he's
it this
born with
morning.
it. What's it called
And
again?
it was like, it's called Neil's Yard.
Maybe he's born with it. Maybe it's Neil's Yard.
But man, it's like once you start going down that road, it's like, oh my god,
When you
the
start
quality,
start going down
the
that
quality,
road. You
of
start
just
going
like,
down Neil's road, mate.
oh, the quality of the products,
Neil's
and it's like you
driveway.
can smell good
Yeah.
and you can feel good.
It's really funny that it's just run called Neil's Yard. Like that conjures an image that isn't really like the products that are offered.
It
You know
is
what I mean?
weird, man, and it's it's a shopping
If somebody
top
came
now.
up to you and went, "Do you want to go to Neil's Yard?" I'd be like, "No."
It sounds like a shipyard.
It
or
seems like
something.
they're going to try and sell me like second-hand tires or
Yeah.
something really
Like a
aggressively, and I'm going to be
junkyard.
like, "Mate, I don't need any second-hand tires."
But really, it's just all the essential essence of lemon jolt.
Yeah, lemon jolt. I mean,
Lemon jolt. I don't know.
Is that a
no, it's
word?
nothing. I just was trying to. I couldn't
It
think what
sounds
it
like it
actually
might
was.
be.
Sounds
So I
right.
was-
Sounds like it might be.
Yeah.
Sounds like it might be some weird, like
lemon
word.
balm with
You
essence
just
of mineral.
You just need to put some lemon jolt on it.
Yeah.
It's a bit like, what was that word? Right? I remember it was like the most hard to pronounce word. Or like the word that we don't have it's like a thing that we didn't have a word for.
one we called
and it was
throm.
like when there's like an awkward thing and you want to make the
Throm.
The
a
throm. A
And you-
throm.
in English it's a throm now. Yeah.
Had any throms recently?
No.
No.
I mean, obviously we're both in established relationships, so you don't really get throms in a relationship, do you? You know,
Cheeky throm.
like with cheeky throm. It's more of like, you know.
If we ever have one, we'll say it on the pod.
Yeah, we will.
We'll
I had a
explain
throm the other
situation.
day. This is an interesting fact, and I have to say, I'm not that surprised. It says that couples who spend more on their weddings are statistically more likely to end up getting divorced.
Really?
I think
because it's like over trying to impress and compensate for.
Well, I guess it shows that maybe there's like a shallowness to the relationship, that it's all like style over substance, maybe. I have to say, one thing I know this sounds almost bad, doesn't it? Like, one of the things I hate about that traditional wedding, you know, when they're like massive and there's hundreds of people there, and there's always like those like set things that almost like you feel like you have to do, or like people feel like they have to do. I always find it a little bit like contrived. And a bit forced.
Yeah, man, 100%.
And as a result, when I'm there, it sounds really bad, doesn't it? Because it's like a magical, beautiful day, but I sort of feel like I'm cringing a bit. And as I said, to me, the main word I would say is it feels contrived. And I think whenever you have that, do you really want to associate like this big day, which is all about like union and like, you know, love and everything? Do you want that to feel contrived?
No, not at all. And that, when I went to Paul and Shona's wedding recently, that was like a thing for me because it was one of my only like mates' weddings that I've been to, and it was so small. Like there was only like, I don't know how many people, but it wasn't many. It was like all just in like one room, you know, just like kind of like. And it felt really special, and like, I was like, I can remember going to other weddings and stuff, and feeling that thing of it being like super contrived and just like really like just kind of going through the motions of the day, and it's like all the things you have to do. That brought back the one that I went to with Paul and Shona. It was almost like the ceremony of being with your friends and it being really special, and that I was like, whoa, it still can happen, you know, like, and it was super beautiful, and
that's
like
nice, man. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I think it's almost about making it sort of an individual thing to you as a couple, isn't it? So
Yeah,
I'm
of
sure
course.
like that
There's
traditional
no one
sort
size
of,
fits all.
I'm sure that sort of traditional way would fit for some people.
Yeah, of course, mate.
But
of course,
but yeah, like you say, it's your day at the end of the day, isn't it? So it should be about you. It should be whatever works for you you and what makes sense for you.
For some people, eloping is best. For other people, a massive, like 200, 300
even think about like what your family situation is and stuff like that. Like I thought that for me, I'm like, when you start thinking about it and thinking, that person will be there and that person will be there, and it might start being awkward and all that.
Yeah, they don't get on. Not everyone gets on.
That kind of stuff for me. Well, like I was thinking, I'd rather elope just because I don't want to deal with any of that stuff.
And also, your wedding day should not be about that.
Not at all. And if it would, it'd really pee me off. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and be like, I just don't want to do that.
Imagine trying to enjoy your day with like Meg and that, and then you can hear like two people that you almost like both like love both of them, but they're like just bickering.
Yeah,
like, shut up.
Yeah, you don't want any of that. You know. But then sometimes at a wedding, it's almost like this contrived thing for me. It's like you almost have to do this. You have to invite these people, and you have to like.
Almost seems like like bad thing to say, but it almost just seems a little bit fake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? But it's an interesting fact anyway, isn't it? Interesting fact. So it goes on to say, a tourist looking to mail an envelope to a farm in the village of Baldaldalur in Western Iceland didn't know the proper postal address, so instead the visitor. Oh wait a minute.
I think the fact was just that people with more expensive weddings are more likely to be divorced.
Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah. I just started going off on some weird different fact.
Postal fact.
I heard a pretty mental story the other day, which I jotted down some notes. So I thought it'd be interesting to talk about on the pod. Did you guys hear about that? What was the woman's name? Curry Richins. Did you hear about that case?
No.
Curry Richins lady?
No.
So Curry Richins is a lady that became like semi-famous in the United States for a while because she wrote a children's book about grief after her husband died. They had 3 kids together, and she was on all these TV interviews and stuff in America, and the nation was sort of pouring their heart out for her. She said, she wrote the book to help her 3 children deal with the grief of their dead father.
Uh-huh.
But then in like a sinister turn, it turned out that she murdered him. And it's like I just thought there was like some mental twist. So
dark.
You can watch like loads of TV interviews of her, and obviously it's almost like a bit sinister because you know that in her head she knows that she could, and she's like going like, obviously it's like such a hard time, and I was just doing it to process the grief. We've got these 3 beautiful kids, and obviously like, how do I like explain to them that their father's died, and it was just so hard for all of us, and I'm thinking, man, you're like sinister, because
that's dark,
and then it went like sort of it all sort of unraveled. So she poisoned him to death. And he actually had like inklings that she was trying to poison him beforehand, and apparently like in the month like before he died, he fell like savagely ill like randomly, and she sort of like told when she was like, so what's wrong with him then? Because he was like really ill and stuff, and obviously like bedridden for a couple of days. And he managed to get over it, but she said that he was just having like these like savage cocktails at this party and stuff, and that like he was, but not the cocktails that she was saying. She was like putting weird stuff in it and that, and then these like And then, to be fair, the feds, or like just I don't know if it was like police force or federals or whatever, but they did a lot of good work. So they managed to track it down really well, and they even like tracked it to like this drug dealer who even ended up like freaking admitting for like a smaller sentence that he said that she came to him and she was like, yeah, I want some like really hard stuff, and the drug dealer was like giving her stuff, and she was like, no, and she was like telling the drug dealer, she was like, no, I want worse stuff. Apparently, she said that she wanted the Michael Jackson dose. That's what she said. She was like, I want the Michael Jackson dose. And I was like, mate, that is sinister. So she was like poisoning him. I always think that's almost, for a paranoid person, that's like the worst thing. Imagine if you were like super paranoid and you were in a relationship and you started like convincing yourself that your partner was poisoning you. Because if you live with somebody, it would be well easy to poison them.
Man,
wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Your missus makes you some food, just like sprinkle something on it. And your dinner looks identical. You're ingesting something, and then later on you're feeling a bit ill. You wouldn't think in a million years like, my missus is trying to poison me.
Yeah. Yeah, this thing about like trust and that, like with like people that are close to you, and like the think that's something like that could be happening. On the way down in the car today, I heard this like mad story on Radio 4. And it was this guy who'd never talked out about it before, but he came on and did like an interview on these, because Radio 4 is like they do like quite like
it's more of talky.
Yeah. And they do
it's
like
podcasty.
Yeah, and they do these like interviews with people of just different like programs and stuff like that. And this guy was talking about his boss basically invited him out for a cup of coffee one morning.
Yeah.
And he went and sat down in there. He got the coffee, sat down on the table. His boss just said, I'm just going to the toilet in a minute. So he just went out and he just like was gone for about 5 minutes, took his first sip of coffee, and just like looked down and he thought, why? How have I spilt coffee on myself? And looked down at his shirt and it was just blood. And he was like, what? And then he realised he's had his throat like slit. And then literally pushed back, and he continuously got stabbed 14 or 18 times, one of those two, I can't remember which one. And his boss had just come out and just started stabbing him in this cafe, and like literally, and then he goes on about and telling the whole story of like how the people around him helped him and fought him off, and then he said about how clear he went in his mind that if he knew what, like he knew that if he panicked at all, he would just die because he was bleeding out in so many places.
Did it say why? What was like the why?
So this was what was so annoying about it. So basically, some people managed to stop the bleeding because he said he told them it was in his back and stuff, and they managed to like thing it until the paramedics got there. He survived it. He had to have 14 pints of blood, like when he went to the hospital because it was coming out still when the thing and everything, the boss pleaded insanity, and like
it does sound pretty insane, to be fair.
Yeah, and just kind of like it went to court and everything, but he was not guilty, and he just went to this like
asylum.
Yeah, and stuff. But like he was this like really high up guy, but he was on like medication and stuff like that. Stopped taking his medication, and he was saying in the program like how feels like it's not justice. Like he understands.
So was it just like a normal, almost like business work dispute?
No dispute or anything.
What?
He walked. He was walking to him and like
So
like on the way to work.
Out?
No, and the boss said to him on the way to the coffee, he's like, "Oh, I've got some really good news for you." So it was almost like it's going to be like a promotion. And he was saying like he was like really working like all these massively long hours and that. But then he goes like and talks about how it changed his life, and now that him and his family have like moved to the countryside and he realized he was just trying to get the better house, the better car, and like he's changed his life around. It's a waste of your life. Yeah, like but that's what he was doing when he's working so much. It's not what it's all about, baby. But man, like that's that. But what it made me think when you said that about the poisoning, like how you can trust, but how you don't see things coming. Like you could just like like say that. You've got to be careful because you never know what someone else is going to do or what's around the corner. Like, what the hell? Your boss just being this like sat and then just going in the bathroom and coming out and stabbing you 18 times. It's like insane.
That is crazy, man.
Yeah,
like,
and then he's talking about the kids and that as well. Like, how do you tell them like what happened? Like, they see the scars and that, and they're like.
Well, I was thinking that about this Curry Richards and their kids, because I was thinking, imagine that from the poor kids' point of view. Imagine that, like. Your dad dies all of a sudden, and that's like, and then you think your mum's like suffering as well, and she's like helping you.
Famous for this book about grief.
And I guess you think, well, at least I got my mum. Plot twist. Turns out your mum killed your dad. And then I heard that apparently it's not disclosed to the public, but like
it is now.
Other members of the family have now filed to like adopt the kids to get like custody of the kids. So it was like, now the kids are going to go have to live with other family members. Now they're going to have to live for the rest of their life knowing that like their mum killed their dad. And
is their mum in prison now?
Yeah, so she's been arrested. Yeah, so she's in. But I think she's still like, it's all like in court proceedings still, I think. But it's like, it's like, are they ever gonna? They have to make the decision. Like, are they even ever gonna speak to their mum again? Like, because you'd almost think. I think you'd grow up and then you'd almost want to ask her like, why? Like, why did you do that? But there was like, she left a lot of like suspicious, like weird, fishy stuff, which she probably shouldn't have tried to do if she actually, like, I guess it was just ignorance on her part. But, like, she, like, tried to change, like, his life insurance policy and like, change his will and everything without him knowing, like, before he died. And obviously then, like, the police managed to trace that and find that all out.
Then you're instantly suspicious.
Yeah, she tried to, like, make herself the sole beneficiary of, like, all of his frickin' stuff and everything like that. And it's like, man, that's just... But it's as I said, it's sinister because... yeah, she looks like a normal woman, and I think that's one of the like sinister things about this sort of like topic is like how you can look so normal.
Yeah, it could be anyone.
Yeah, look, it's like this is like she looks just like a normal woman. I'm trying to see a picture of her face. That's the guy. That's the poor guy that got killed.
Oh.
Just had his life just taken from him. Like, that's the woman, obviously. That's who he was married to.
He looks like Frank Dennis.
That's them. Look, like this is like a normal, happy family and that.
That is madness.
That's crazy.
Curry seen here with Eric and the three sons reportedly threw a massive party the day after he died.
What I think makes that so sinister as well is that she went how over the top is that to make a book about how to deal with grief? Like, you don't need to do that. You're just...
Mate, she's clearly a psychopath.
How far am I going to take
That's like classic psychopath behaviour, isn't it?
Do you know
no remorse.
I watch this. I've been watching those like criminal things on YouTube where like you see people getting interviewed after they've done horrendous things, and it just shows how mad they are because they show no remorse and stuff like this. And like there was one as well, and it was hilarious because did I say about the woman in the suitcase?
Yes.
Yeah, they got and she locked her
and he died.
She locked the husband.
And then
in
she
the
said it was like an accident or something.
I don't think I've heard this.
She called up the police.
I'm pretty sure Drew said it on the pod.
You hear she rings up the police and it shows you like the police call and stuff like that, and she's just like, oh my god, I don't know what to do. He's in the suitcase. He's dead, and just like
she was an idiot because she filmed it.
Yeah, so the night before she'd like put him in the suitcase because they were both drunk. And like zipped him up in there, and he was just on the film saying like, "Oh, I need to get him out." And she's like, "Haha, F you," and stuff like that.
She's like taunting him, isn't it? He's like, "Please."
And she couldn't remember that she'd filmed it. The next day,
she's like, "I can't breathe." You said, "I can't breathe."
Yeah,
please.
And literally, she just went up to bed, and then just woke up the next morning and come down, and he was just dead in the suitcase.
He like suffocated to death.
Oh my
And then
God.
obviously like she ran, and then she like filmed the police, and the police came, blah blah, and obviously they questioned her, blah blah blah. They brought her in.
She rang her ex-husband first though, and he was like, phone the police.
And then they brought her in for questioning, and then she was like making out that it was accident. But it was really weird because I watched it after you showed it to me, and she's like saying like, "Oh, we were just messing around."
Yeah.
And she was like, and then he was
trying to play it down and that, and saying like, "Oh, am I going to be able to go now after this?" And it's like, do you really think you'd be able to go out of that police station after you've done something like that, even if you didn't mean to?
That was the weird thing about it, like how she was acting like it was really casual.
Yeah.
She was acting like
casualness.
She was acting like she'd accidentally stolen a bottle of ketchup.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But like it was like, nah, a man, and they kept saying in the videos like, this man, your boyfriend is dead. And she's like, yeah, I know, but it wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
And she was making out that like, really he said, he like got into the suitcase and was like, yeah, as a joke, why didn't you zip it up? And then obviously the cop was like, okay, well, that's a bit weird. But then why didn't you let him out? And she's like, oh, well, I just sort of like fell asleep and stuff. And she made out that she just sort of like casually fell asleep. And then she woke up and he was dead. But then they took her phone, and then she didn't realise, but when she was drunk, she took videos. What an idiot. She took videos of him taunting him, and and you can hear him going like, I can't breathe, please let me out, please let me out. And she's like, no, like, F you, like, I'm not going to let you out.
Now you know how it feels.
And in different videos, he was like in different places around the property.
So she's been like pulling around.
Almost like she'd been pulling him around, like pushing him over, and like, you know, like almost like, obviously it would hurt a lot, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It'd be like going in a barrel over a freaking waterfall or something. So she was obviously being like as malicious and nasty as almost like she possibly could. And yeah, it's crazy the level of delusion on that woman.
To think that you would just be able to. So she's like, "Can I have my phone back now?" And it's like, "No."
Like, no.
It's like they just can't comprehend what they've done.
Yeah, and
or
they
just
really
don't
normalise
care.
it in a really weird way. Like,
it is very sinister, isn't it?
Yeah, there's another one of those to watch about that. It was a guy who killed all of his family, and he'd run up like 150 grand's worth of debt on his dad's credit cards. From having this like online relationship with like a cam girl, and over the 3 years or whatever that he was like talking to her, he basically like got hold of like credit cards from his family, and it was about 150 grand or something, and like he was in medical school and they were trying to, you know what I mean, but like, and then they argued about it and he just like killed them all, and then but was in like saying that he didn't, and you know, kind of just another one of these things, like totally no remorse or anything, but just not admitting it to the police, but they knew exactly that he had done it and they had proof that he'd done it and stuff. And it's just like, and it even shows his brother, the only survivor that wasn't there, like, because he wasn't there, like, come in, and even he was like, oh, I just need to know what happened, like, you need to tell me, and he even like hugged him and stuff, and I was thinking, you know, like, that must...
That's so sinister, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so, like, as we were saying earlier about like, how things like menacing and sinister, you're almost like, man, some people are messed up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that is so messed up, man. Like, how can you even, like... To be that level,
how can you be
so manipulative?
Inhumane?
Yeah, it's like so manipulative, isn't it? Almost like conniving, like making out that you're like real sad, like, like saying like you just want to know and stuff, and it's like, mate, you know. You know, like...
Yeah.
Well, that's crazy, dude. It's like, I guess it's like acting, isn't it?
crazy
out there.
Absolutely.
I suppose that's why you can't be
crazy.
like so naive. You know, always try and look at the best things in people and situations, but sometimes life can throw you a curveball.
Yeah,
You've got to be
Certainly
vigilant.
can, my friend. Certainly can.
Gotta have that vigilance, man.
Gonna get those visions, my friend. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Cray.
Mental.
I thought this was a nice. Should we like end on this little positive thing? I'm gonna go full on hallelujah now. I thought this was just a nice little thing. I saved it because I thought, do you know what? That's true. And for anybody that's having a bad day out there, why don't you just think about this? It says, you may think that you are completely insignificant in this world, but someone drinks coffee from their favourite cup that you gave them every day. Someone heard a song on the radio that reminded them of you. Someone read the book that you recommended and plunged headfirst into it, forever grateful. Someone smiled after a hard day's work because they remembered the joke that you told them that day. Someone loves himself a little bit more because you gave them a compliment. Never think that you have no influence. Your trace, which you leave behind you with every good deed, cannot be erased. Isn't that nice?
That's a beauty. That's taking us right out of the depths of hell into the beauty of the world.
But the reason I really like that is I thought because like regardless of who you are on the planet, that applies to you, doesn't it? You don't have to be like have outrageous skills or abilities or be able to do something crazy or showy or look like fricking some A-list celeb or like
a little bit of kindness can go a long way.
Regardless of who you are, that applies to everyone. I said all these nice little good deeds.
The ripples of a good deed.
I say you never know who just just smiling at somebody, at some stranger. Yeah, they might just flip you off, and you might be like, but they also might think, that really made my day. I haven't been smiled at like that in years. So
100%.
Never underestimate your ability to have an impact on the world, baby.
The power of positivity.
I think that's one of the things, isn't it? Because we know like loads of people that have committed suicide recently, don't we? I say like loads. It's like quite a few.
The most that I've ever had in my whole life of people that I know in the last year.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Obviously, like there was that real nice girl we went to school with, wasn't there, Antonina? And her husband passed away. Committed suicide like a couple of weeks ago. That was like brutal. Had 2 little kids. Man, it's just like crazy. And then another guy that we don't sort of like know him, but we know people that know him well. We sort of like know people that we went to school with and are sort of friends with that were like really good friends with him, weren't we? That other guy that committed suicide, was it like just last week or the week before or something? That's crazy, man, isn't it? It's mad how it's just like seems to be like such a common thing nowadays. But I think, yeah, you know what I mean? In those dark moments and that, like, yeah, never forget, like, if you're feeling worthless or if you're in a bad point, like, you have such a big impact on the people around you, even if you don't think you do. And I don't even just mean like people in like your actual like life, like your family and your close friends. I'm talking about like every time you're in a situation ever where there's other people. The way you act
sphere of
has a massive consequence. And it's almost like whether that's good or bad is up to you. But like that's like a power that every single human on the planet can have. And I also think for people that are in all those like in those darkest moments, if you're like even if you're feeling like the worst you've ever felt in your life, or you're like suddenly maybe impulsively the idea of suicide comes into your head or something, so just remember, like, you leaving will have such a massively negative effect on the people around you. And not just that, you're robbing yourself of so much. Like I think we were talking about it, Drew, weren't we? And I said like to you, just because I thought it's really interesting to think about these things, isn't it? Like, everybody listening, imagining like the worst point you've ever had in your life, like the lowest point that you would consider of your life, whether that was 10 years ago, 30 years ago, or last week. And then imagine if you offed yourself then, right? Just imagine theoretically, even obviously if you like never even, I think, a lot of people wouldn't have even conceived it, but just imagine if you offed yourself theoretically in your lowest point you've ever had. And then imagine every single good memory that you've had since that moment. And then imagine if you robbed yourself of that. Like that, to me, that instantly makes you think like, well, of course, like I wouldn't have done that, or like I'm so glad that, like, obviously in this theoretical scenario I'm putting forward, like, so glad that I didn't do that, or that I would never think about doing that. Every great memory you've got, whether it's with like a partner or like a friend, or every like experience, even like every new song that you listen to that you really like, every movie, every laugh, every little image of like a place that you've never been to before, whether it's like a a National Trust place or a nice walk or something, or like a holiday you went on and you saw a cool animal or just took in the scenery and thought, man, the world's amazing.
Yeah, because it's crazy. Like at those lowest points, it can feel so overwhelming, and you can't even imagine those things happening. But then all the years later, like for me, say it was probably like 10 years ago or something, where it was like probably one of my worst like feelings or places
around the
or
same time for me as well.
And you think of all the things that have happened since then. Like you of course you wouldn't rob yourself of those
moments of real euphoria,
and how much you change, much you change over that time, where you can
reflect,
you're not
get wiser.
Yeah, like and grow as like a person and all of that stuff. Like it happens. It's gonna happen. Like I know it's like cliche, but then when people say like time is a healer, but it always is, no matter what situation you're in. You know.
Yeah. Like I always think in it, because let's face it, we all sometimes put in situations where like on that day and in that moment, whether it's like something where you've massively effed up. Or like a fallout you've had with somebody or something where you've messed up massively and it's all consuming. But as I said, it's like the next day it's a bit better. The day after that it's a little bit better. The week after that it's a lot better. A year later
you got your degree. You
can't remember it. Do you know what I mean? And 10 years later it's like, you're probably not even going to remember that day. That felt all consuming at the time. And even if you do you know what I mean? It's not like a big deal. We all have them. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, who cares, man? It's like I said, as you said, Drew, those say like 10 years, and like 10 years, like as I said, those moments of like genuine like euphoria. Do you know what I mean? There's like moments of genuine
euphoria. Think about
the
orgasms, man.
Think of all the orgasmic moments you've had, my friend. Think like 10 years ago. Think like you never would have met Meg. You never wouldn't have had that nice holiday in Costa Rica.
Yeah, seen a sloth hanging from a tree running over my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny, isn't it? Like how every decision that you make can have such massive implications after that. It's a bit like the butterfly effect, isn't it? That movie with Ashton Kutcher and stuff. That's a cool movie, isn't it? But it's true, isn't it? It's like
I love that, like and like the ideas of the ripples of those little positive influences or negative or whatever, like that they do have. Like the domino ripply effect of how that goes out into the world. Like it could, I find it really interesting to think something that you've done could influence something completely like that you would never even like think it would, but just over on the other side of the country or something. With, I love that idea.
I think the spinniest thing in that regard is like I say, like once you've had a kid and you think about that, because obviously like every single one of your sperm are completely different and could carry different genes and everything. So like say without going too graphic, ladies and gentlemen, say like if you go back to like that precise moment when say like I knocked up, for lack of a better term, my missus, think if it just like hadn't done that night or had done like next day, because it would have been like a different load, so to speak, it would have been like a completely different child. And then as a result, my daughter wouldn't be who she is. And in her life, a bit like what we were saying about how everything you do has a massive influence on the people around you, regardless of who you are. So she's going to have a massive impact on her life. She's going to meet thousands of people across sports over the course of her life and interact with thousands of people in all these different ways and experience, moments of euphoria and moments of really feeling low herself and all these different stuff. But if you just hadn't had that day, then it's really hard to describe without suddenly sounding all seedy. Do you know what I mean?
No, I know.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if you hadn't had sex at that precise moment, then you would have a completely different child, which would have a completely different impact on the world. You know, one of them could be a Jesus, one of them could be a Hitler. Do you know what I mean? I mean, hopefully, I would never give birth to a Hitler. you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a wide variety. I mean, you can just look from your own siblings. Like, I mean, obviously, we're all similar to our siblings in some ways, but then also some people are like the antithesis of like their brother or sister. You know, completely different. You know, so it's crazy. You know, so you could be like
madness.
Just nuts, isn't it?
Crazy
nuts. Should we leave it on that?
Yeah, I think
we should. Folks. Right,
to think about, isn't it?
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning with us on another Pandora's Box. But you have a great week. We'll be back with you again next week. We love you.
Oh, bye-bye for
now.
Bye-bye.